evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool. I was made aware this morning of an incident that took place between Mr. Smith and the operator of apparently a piece of construction equipment that blew up into a series of 911 phone calls, which I was privy to the recorded versions of. Mr. Smith apparently felt justified this morning in ordering the operator of a front-end loader to stop operating the vehicle on a street near his home, citing his membership on city council and screaming at what sounded like the top of his lungs. Now, we all have bad days, and I'm certainly not immune to that, nor am I immune to showing poor judgment on occasion. But I try to act as responsibly as I can, conscious of the fact that there are people who know who I am and, well, word gets around. I find it curious that the same gentleman who feels justified in ordering people based on his membership on this panel is, on the other side of the coin, busy answering emails and text messages during the budget meeting, which is arguably the most important meeting held in this chamber all year. And I also find it particularly disrespectful, Mr. Smith, that you cannot just sit there and listen to what a resident has to say to you. Now, I find this odd juxtaposition of things to be something of a strange dichotomy. Somebody who, on one hand, holds the office in such high esteem and feels that it should command respect, but on the other side of the coin, can't even be bothered to pay attention to do the duties of that office. And I find that to be very strange and hard to reconcile in my mind, but the more I thought about it this evening, the more that I realized that this young man right here is absolutely 125% correct. It is a particular lack of respect that you have for the office that you hold, sir. And I find it greatly disturbing that you would act in the way that you have and tie up our police and 911 operators for a petty, personal little vendetta against a guy trying to earn a living, while at the same time shirking your duties and not paying attention during the meeting. Mr. Smith, do you have any respect for anybody besides yourself? Do you have any respect for this office? Please answer my question.
I got to answer Mr. Garapi. Mr. Garapi had a lengthy discussion this morning about 10 o'clock on my street. A very large front loader backhoe piece of off-road equipment came up my street, up Charwood. Charwood does not abut any construction sites. There is a construction site that fronts on 16.5 mile, and at this time there's a pipe tie-in that it also fronts on Robin Nest. And we've checked the rules on this. That as long as he has flashing lights and a slow-moving vehicle warning, that an unlicensed piece of construction equipment can work on the adjacent street. Well, Charwood is not an adjacent street, and they have no right to be running construction equipment through there. It's a residential neighborhood. There's no construction in our neighborhood. It's the entryway to Mesmore School, where there's heavy student and parent traffic. This thing is way wider than a car. It's taller, louder, makes diesel smoke. Well, the first time it went through, I ignored it on the basis that it was proceeding to the site. But then a few minutes later, it come through with a load of gravel. And it was very obvious that he was shuttling loads of gravel through the residential area to this construction site. And I felt then, and I felt now, that they've got a construction site, they've got adjacent streets, they got every right to be on those streets. They don't have a right to drive unlicensed construction equipment through my neighborhood. I won't tolerate it. I called 911. It was a long, long time before they answered. But while I was trying to make the 911 call, the operator of the construction equipment was revving his engine to try to drown me out. And yes, the operator asked me to speak louder. I spoke louder to be heard over the construction equipment. Eventually, the police came. They didn't do anything about it, but we've gone on record that that this developer isn't going to use this back door from the site to make my neighborhood part of the construction job, because he has no right to do that, and I'm legitimately protecting myself and the other people in my neighborhood. So there.
Any other council? Mr. Taylor?
No, excuse me, pardon me, Mr. Mayor. I left.
I thought you were done. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I'm not done.
Go ahead.
The next issue is I called 911, and a 911 operator answered and dispatched the police. And at that point, apparently, this 911 operator somehow translated official government transcripts to Mr. Garapi to post on his blog site and YouTube. Now, I haven't seen these because I don't do blogs, I don't do YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, chat rooms, message boards, any of this. But I've got emails and phone calls from people that tell me that somehow, within a very short time, Mr. Garapi became in possession of an audio recording that nobody that worked for the city had any right to transmit to him. I've touched base with Chief Reese. Chief Reese says it didn't happen and it couldn't happen, but apparently it did happen. And I'm asking Mr. Vanderhoel, Mr. Bohorsky, Mr. Reese to find the person that compromised his job and transmitted this 911 tape. So something's been done that's wrong here, and it needs to be set right.
Mr. Taylor?
Well, I'll end the mystery right here. It was me. And I thought it was an embarrassment, and I thought it was absurd, a complete lack of sense that Mr. Smith would waste valuable police and emergency dispatch resources over a construction truck driving through the subdivision. Was it proper for that truck to be in your subdivision? Probably not. But you know, we on the city council have a lot of influence. We can call up the city manager and say, look, something bad is going on, and I'd like it to stop right now. And the city manager, his time is valuable too, but you know what? People's lives aren't at risk if we take up a minute or two of his time. And to be using a dispatcher's time when somebody could be on the other end having a heart attack waiting while you're screaming that there's an emergency and putting your body in between the road and a 10,000-pound or 10-ton piece of equipment, I mean, it's unconscionable that somebody on the city council wouldn't understand that that's an egregious waste of time.
And then I don't believe that the email that we received today regarding the communication between Mr. Smith and the dispatcher was marked confidential. So Mr. Taylor could very well pass it on without, he didn't do anything wrong. So those are my only comments. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to read a prepared statement. This is not a personal vendetta against Mr. Smith. These are my own personal views. I think it needs saying, and before I say that, I want to say this. When we all come to council, we would hopefully think that as council members, we can all get along. That's what it's all about. Not what we want, but what our employers want. And that's you people out there, the residents of Sterling Heights. You're our employers. Just as Mr. Vanderpool works for us, we work for you. And it's somewhat upsetting to me that I have to go home upset with myself for not being able to say to everyone on this council, let's work together. Let's put something together that's good for the residents. Let's don't disgrace, in my words and in my opinion, this office that we've been elected to, that we hold very serious. Having said that, for what has been an extended period of time, Councilman Smith has resorted to personal attacks on city government, including those who work for the city and those who do business with the city. These attacks seem to arise whenever Mr. Smith disagrees with a policy or decision that doesn't go his way, and that happens frequently. While there is a place for debate and criticism on this council, these personal attacks cross the line by alleging, without factual support, wrongdoing by employees and businesses. Everyone is entitled to an opinion, but when you cross the line, you make these baseless accusations as an elected representative of this city. These personal attacks are being put out for public consumption. In doing so, they undermine confidence in the government of this city. Employees throughout the organization, our employees, have expressed concern for Mr. Smith's ongoing attacks, personal attacks. In addition, business owners and their legal representatives have objected to the actions of Councilman Smith and advised that this conduct will not be tolerated. As an elected official, I cannot stand idly by and allow one individual to erode the public confidence in this city by what amounts to character assassination. These personal attacks, left unchallenged, expose all of us to a dialogue of contempt for people and institutions. For these reasons, I want to go on record as disavowing these personal attacks and state that they are not representative of the viewpoint of the city, its council, administrator, or any of the employees. Should these personal attacks continue, any liability or cost associated or arising must be borne by the person who chooses to place his self-interest above those who is elected to serve. Mr. Smith, in asking an employee if he or she is a Nazi is unacceptable. Accusing the city manager and the chief of police of accepting bribes is unacceptable. I could go on and on. People have to understand this is a very serious problem and it is ongoing. If this would happen in the private sector, his comments would be dealt with by calling the famous number, 1-800-CALL-SAM. Our personnel are hopefully too professional to do this. Slander is a very serious offense. Anything that I have just read or stated to you can all be accessible to the Freedom of Information Act. Thank you, Mayor.
When we voted to send dispatch to county, Mayor Noddy, Mrs. Zarko, Mrs. Schmidt, and myself voted to send them, and Mr. Taylor opposed it. Apparently, for some reason, a 911 operator decided to disclose city information to Mr. Taylor, obviously for political reasons. And I guess while we're discussing who disclosed the audio of the call, I guess we can, maybe Mr. Taylor might tell us who his source is, how it came to him, because obviously it's somebody in dispatch.
No, it's not somebody in dispatch, and I did not vote against that. I voted in favor of sending the dispatchers to the county, Mr. Smith. I don't know if you prepare. I don't know if you have any sort of I don't think you care about setting the record straight. I don't think you care about being diligent about your facts. You shoot from the hip, and you just told a falsehood. You spin a web to tell a story, and the mental gymnastics you go through to justify behavior in your head is really bizarre to me. And I'm afraid that there's something wrong with your behavior. Your erratic behavior cannot be the behavior of a sensible, reasonable, logical person, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.